live in the dungeon. This is the Dream Warrior Review. I'm Kurt Thomas.
I'm Mick Strawn.
What I kind of wanted to talk about the 1995 Jumanji kind of by itself because it's not even really related to the new ones, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah.
Did it remind you of movie it thought made me think of this movie, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? It kind of had that same feel to it.
It did. You know, it seemed to have a pattern that was used in the 80s, 80s, 70s, and 60s. You know, it was kind of like the pattern for the adventure film.
And this was 95. You know?
Yeah, and this was 95. It's funny.
I had that same thought.
It did seem, even as I was watching it, it did seem very Disney-esque and not recent Disney-esque.
Right. Yes.
It had like that 60s Disney-esque feel to it, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it really did. It surprised me. I thought to myself, and I don't remember really ever liking Jumanji very much.
I think I saw it I was in college, and I think I kind of liked it, but I wasn't overly excited about it.
Well, I took my kids to see it, and here was my kind of take on it at the time. I thought the effects were terrible because the effects were it was, you know, supposed to be the height of modern technology.
Right, yeah.
And I guess for 1995 it was.
Well, I remember at the time thinking, that was kind of cool, but then now I'm like watching it through 2019 eyes, and the monkeys were hard to look at. I was like, oh my God, what are we watching?
Oh, man, the monkeys in the line. Well, here's what I thought was kind of really telling and kind of tells the story of effects was just the lion sequence, the very first sequence that we see the lion. And there was such a mix of a prosthetic lion and a visual effects lion and the practical lion claws coming through the doorways and stuff like that. And and all of them looked vastly different from each other.
No, totally. Yeah.
I mean, they looked so vastly different from each other that it was almost almost a tutorial on what not to do, because you do have to remember that we are a little bit better at blending all these effects today.
Yeah, this was kind of early on, and like, yeah,
this was early on, and I'm going to tell you this: if you noticed, when I worked down in New Zealand.
Storytime. Storytime. It's Storytime with Mick. 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 Storytime with Mick.
At about that time, we were fighting a problem. We were on Hercules, and we were having a problem with putting the visual effects together with the practical effects, and that they didn't seem to ever be matching. And the visual effects people, this was the beginning of CGI, by the way.
Right,
so
yeah.
the CGI people are saying, well, then just give it all to, and it becomes this. It doesn't become a problem of what are we going to do for the best effect. It becomes more of a problem of territory. You know, the visual effects people were going, well, if you guys can't keep up, then just give us all the effects, right?
Right,
and
yeah.
Then you have to look them in the eye and go, well, yeah, but you're not that good at it.
Right.
We would. and then the pure makeup effects people are going, well, and the thing, it was K&B from LA was doing the practical effects, the practical, like the monster effects, and Weta was just brand new at bringing on the other effects. And what we realized, and it took us a while to figure it out, and I have to say that it came out of a discussion between me and Peter Jackson. And we finally figured out that the problem, me and Peter Jackson and Richard Taylor worked out the problem that the world of people that were animating from the visual effects were doing cartoon stretches, and they were bending reality the way a cartoon always bends reality, right?
Right.
So, if somebody reaches for something and you want to make it more visually impactful, then you can put the camera anywhere you want if you're working visual effects.
Right, yeah.
And then you can stretch the look.
Yeah, play with perspective and stuff, yeah.
Right, you can play with perspective all day long. In fact, you play with perspective in every drawing you make because you're trying to make it as impactful as possible. And unfortunately, that's not the game that you can play in reality. You see, when you're making a rubber mold, the rubber mold probably pretty much stays, the head probably pretty much stays in perspective all the time. You can't like make the head get bigger and bigger as it comes down to chomp somebody, right? Which is a very animation kind of thing.
Right.
And we realized that this is what was happening. And here's the thing. When you watch the lion sequence, that's exactly what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you notice that? That the
makes sense,
lion
yeah.
would be going, and the lion went by, and the lion was kind of stretching as it went.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden at the end, it's this like kind of just puppet lion, and the puppet lion doesn't look anything like the other. Yes. And the thing is at the same time, you don't believe the puppet lion either because the hair was terrible.
Yeah. Yes.
The hair was really obviously fake, and had that nylon sheen to it,
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of like nylon has this way of curling right at the tips when you make a hair out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that curling at the tips creates a little bit of a fuzz that bounces off of the camera, and it bounces the light off, but it doesn't look like hair. It looks kind of like a kind of halo kind of effect.
Wow. Yeah.
And so you saw that, but then all of a sudden you saw the claws hit the door, which was literally probably claws on a stick hitting the door, and that was
Yes.
that was the most impactful part of the whole sequence. It was the first time that it actually sold you that there could be a tiger on the other side or a lion on the other side of the door.
Right. Well, I think I was more impressed in the 90s, and actually I kind of enjoyed it. I still enjoy it this time. I think I probably liked it more than you did because I found it entertaining, and I liked Robin Williams, but like I think at this point now I'm kind of like tired of seeing him. But even though he's dead now, but I mean, I got kind of tired of him after this. So I think I liked it better in the 90s. But I think actually the action was pretty good, even though it was like the CGI was terrible. That they did a good job of pacing it, and the acting was good. So
the character that he played was a lot closer to the manic character
yes.
that he perfected.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, he then, within a few years after that, he then moved into a more serious, he did serious comedy and he did serious non-comedy, right? But he never went back to that.
Was this before or after Flubber?
I don't know.
I couldn't remember. I was like, because Flubber was kind of the same thing. It was like the same kind of movie, and it was Disney-esque. I think it was a Disney movie, actually.
Right. But it was almost like you could tell that they put a lot of money into it. That when they did the shots of him running through the house, right?
I remember it being a huge movie. And you looked
at the size. And you looked at the size of the house and the size of everything, and that too kind of had that if we want to play him being alone, we'll just put the camera in one spot and we'll show him in this enormous set.
Right. Well,
which they did.
Well, the weird thing is I noticed there were a lot of like unanswered questions and they seemed to hint at a sequel, and I'm like, obviously I don't know what happened there, but I guess they never decided to make a sequel.
Obviously they decided it was going to be better than it actually was.
I think they made a TV series. I just don't know when that happened.
But it's part of the wrap up. Part of that Disney warm feeling is the wrap up. The way that
and this had it.
The way
over the top.
Over the top. I mean, the sweetness at the end was almost palpable. It was you could have bottled that crap. You just could have bottled it, And I don't think that we kind of we don't look as favorable on a pure schmaltzy tie. Not just tie up all the loose ends, but actually go in and improve things with the loose ends.
Yes, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, because it also wrapped up really quickly. Like after everything happened, it was like, okay, well, we're done with that. Let's go back to.
Well, we're done.
Let's go back to when we're kids and have a loving moment, and that's it.
And then we're going to go through 20, and then 26 years comes and goes like that.
Yes. I do have a story about David Alan Grier. He's haunted me my whole life.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, we are here.
Storytime with her.
He's actually been very supportive of me for some reason. I used to love like In Living Color, so I was obsessed. He was actually probably my favorite guy on there, just because he's crazy. But I actually like him more than Jim Carrey. So I was excited to see him in this movie when I first saw this movie. And the weird thing is, it's like for a 10-year period, I kept having these dreams about David Alan Grier like rescuing me. Like I was like in trouble, and he'd drive up in a World War II tank and say, "Come on, Kurt, let's get up here." And he'd take me on, and then one time he actually came up and took me under his arm, and he had like a machine gun in his hand, and he's like, "Come on, let's get out of here." Like he was saving me for something. So that happened for a while, and they eventually stopped. So I'm not sure what's going on there. So I appreciate David Alan Grier not only because he saved my life, but because he's a decent actor and he makes things a lot more fun. If he wasn't in this, it would have been, I don't know.
Yeah, no. I really enjoyed him. I think that you're enjoying him a little bit too much.
I think so too. Well, I was concerned about myself.
Saying.
I'm like, what's wrong with me? At least they weren't sexual dreams. They were just, he was helping me.
These are pre-sexual dreams, are they?
Well, they weren't sexual at all. It's like once I got out of danger, I woke up.
Yeah, right. So did you? Was it damp? Were your pajama bottoms damp when you woke up?
No. I woke up like usually all sweaty and like I just ran away from danger or something. So I think.
Okay, so. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Like that feeling of terror, where you have like a nightmare. That's kind of what it felt like. But he saved me from it, so there you go.
Okay, well, there you go. Okay,
so if I ever meet him, I'm going to say thank you for being in my dreams and saving my life.
Thank you for being a friend.
Thanks for driving up in that tank, buddy.
Oh my gosh! So
I know you weren't expecting that as a story, really.
Yeah, that kind of took a left turn right there. That's
You're gonna think, oh well, he probably a story you met him or something, and but no.
No, you know what? I get a feeling that you've been wanting to say that to somebody your whole life.
Well, I did mention it to I think my ex-girlfriend before I got married. I mentioned it to her, and she's like. Okay.
Don't ever say that again.
Don't ever talk about that again. That's weird.
Don't ever talk about
that's
that.
Weird.
Especially don't ever talk about that on a podcast in the future.
Well, at this point, I want to tell him because I feel like I need to get it off my chest.
Well, you need to get it off of something. I have to say.
Yeah. So what would you rate
disturbing.
this? I know.
Really, what would I rate it? I loved Robin Williams. It was a fascinating period in effects. I think that everybody thought that they really had it going on, and looking back on it, it is kind of funny that I think to myself that I might have something to do with improving that situation.
Right.
But yeah. Boy, I got to tell you something. It kind of had an end of an era kind of feeling to it, didn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
It absolutely had a like. I mean, I'm not saying it was bad at all. It was actually pretty good. I'm gonna have to give it a 3. But at the same time, it was the end of a certain type of writing. We don't write them like that anymore, and there's a reason.
You mean they stopped having 10-year-olds write scripts?
Yeah, exactly. The Disney children finally, it is too basic.
Well, they had a formula. It was all formula. Yeah, I mean, like even Honey I Shrunk the Kid is, if you compare that movie with Jumanji, it's kind of the same story in a way.
Yeah, it is the same story, and it has the same schmaltzy ending and the whole bit.
It's almost like the climax came at a certain point, exactly at a certain point, just like Honey I Shrunk the Kids did. So they actually had a formula. Maybe they burned that formula and ripped it up.
Well,
although
we can't make that anymore.
I have a feeling
lost the formula.
Well, I was gonna say I've seen the 2017 Jumanji, but I have a feeling that the new one is going to be similar, but I haven't seen it yet, so we'll have to talk about that once we see that.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe we should go to a theater. What do you think?
Yeah, let's go. Thanks for joining us on the Dream Warrior Review podcast. Don't forget to tell your friends about us, follow us, and, of course, like us. We can be found on Podbean, which is an amazing app, YouTube, Stitcher, Alexa on any pod, iTunes, Google Play. We're on Twitter as well, at DW Review, and, of course, Facebook. You can find us there. You can also email us at dreamwarriorreview@gmail.com.